Hey guys, this is the Overthinker and welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to be bringing you a preseason hype slash off-season hype video for the Cincinnati Bengals. Last week I did one on the Browns. We are starting with the AFC North. Now I am a Lions fan, but I do follow every team in the NFL pretty closely, and I want to make these videos to kind of see what other fans are thinking, as well as put my own spin on what I think about every other team in the NFL this year. Now, as an outsider, I must say the Bengals were a pretty hard team to try and dissect and try and figure out what to expect this year. Because a couple years ago, I think they went 12-4, which is pretty dang good. But when I look at this roster, there's really one thing that really jumps at you, and it's the lack of depth. There's really not a whole lot of depth on this team. If you look at offense, I mean, they have two good running backs, but outside of that, they don't have another position with even quality depth. Tyler Boyd, I don't know how long he's going to be in this league. I don't even know if he's going to be a number 2 receiver at this point. It doesn't look like it to me, but I guess that's just an outsider's perspective. I haven't seen him making a whole lot of big plays over the last 2 years. And at this point, it doesn't even look like he'll be a reliable possession receiver for like third downs and stuff. It doesn't really look like he's going to turn into a good receiver at this point. I mean, it has only been 2 years, but when's the last time you've seen a receiver come into the league and then not play good for 2 years and then just blow up? That doesn't really happen in the NFL. Most of the time, guys come in and they just show up. Now, I will say John Ross missed a lot of games last year. I can't remember how many games he played, but I'm assuming it's probably like 4 or 5. And I don't remember him really even making any big plays when he got in the game. So, I mean, obviously from an outsider's perspective, it doesn't look good, but maybe hopefully for next year, he'll be able to get on the field because he was fun to watch in college, and he's definitely a very fast player. But obviously, with a player like John Ross and the types of routes that he runs, you need to have time as a quarterback. And from watching the Bengals over the last couple of years, they do not have a very good starting offensive line. And that's another one of those things outside of depth on this team. That's another thing that they really are going to struggle with this year is the offensive line. There's just not a lot of starters on that line that I think are capable. Now, they did draft a guy named Billy Price out of Ohio State, who I thought was very good. I actually wanted the Lions to take him until he tore his bicep, because the Lions really needed someone to start the season, and I don't know. I haven't been checking into it to see how that's healing, but sometimes an injury like that can hold you out for, a few months, maybe like 4 or 5 months. But I also thought that Billy Price was the best offensive lineman in this class outside of the guard that went to the Colts. Now, as I said, for guys like John Ross, you need to have a lot of time in the pocket, and it definitely helps to have a better offensive line. But another thing that really helps is to have your best players healthy. And that's a thing that the Bengals have really struggled with over the past few years. Especially guys like Tyler Eifert have not been able to stay on the field. They have been, I don't even know if Tyler Eifert played a full season. And if he did, it was probably his rookie year. I'm not sure, but I think he blew his knee out one time. And he has been missing a lot of games over the past 3 years, I think. I think 3 or 4 years he's been in the league. And in my opinion, Tyler Eifert's probably the 3rd or 4th best tight end in the league. When it comes to tight ends that I think are probably better, I would say obviously Gronkowski. I also would say Travis Kelce, and probably, in my opinion, I would take Greg Olsen too. Just because Greg Olsen really doesn't get hurt very often. But then you got a guy like Tyler Eifert, and as we've seen in the past few years, tight ends like Tyler Eifert get hit a lot, especially in the knee, because that's kind of the only way to bring them down when they're in the open field against, a defensive back, a corner, even some of those bigger safeties really struggle to take these guys down. That's why they're shooting at the knees, and guys like that are definitely susceptible to injuries. As we've seen with Jimmy Graham has dealt with injuries. Obviously, Rob Gronkowski has dealt with injuries a lot throughout his career. And that's just kind of what it is, being that big receiving tight end. You're going to deal with that a lot. And I guess it's certainly not surprising that a guy like him has struggled with injuries so much. But I also think just for the rest of the teams, big stars like A.J. Green and Geno Atkins, even Vontaze Burfict, they have struggled to stay on the field. A.J. Green is probably my favorite receiver in the NFL to watch. Now, in my opinion, if I had to pick one receiver, it would probably be either A.J. Green or DeAndre Hopkins. Just because of what they bring to the table. And I know Antonio Brown's a ridiculously good receiver, but he also has played his entire career with a Hall of Fame quarterback, and I'm a big fan of Ben Roethlisberger. He's a pretty damn accurate quarterback. He can make a lot of throws, especially off his back foot. When defensive backs aren't really looking for him to make that pass, he can drop it in. He can pretty much drop it in from any angle. That's Big Ben. Now, Andy Dalton is really nothing like that. He's the kind of guy that needs a clean pocket, and really needs guys to be more open. But yeah, I mean, when I watch AJ Green, I see a guy who's a ridiculously good route runner. He has a lot more speed than people think, and he's just a competitive guy. He's hard to bring down in the open field, and he's been the biggest playmaker on this Bengals offense for quite a while. Now, looking at the defense here, the Bengals have to find a way to stop getting Vontaze Burfict suspended, because Vontaze Burfict is one of the best players on this team. You like it or not, he is the best linebacker on this team, and I don't even think it's close. As an outsider's perspective, Vontaze Burfict is a dominant linebacker versus the run, and he's also pretty good at dropping back into coverage and playing zone coverage. He's very good. He does a lot of things really well. I think if a guy like Vontaze Burfict could stay on the field, he would probably push up towards a top 5 stand-up backer in this league, just because of what he brings to the table and how consistent he has been throughout his career when he's on the field. And I think if you're a Bengals fan, you got to be kind of frustrated at this point, because you know the window is closing. Guys like AJ Green aren't getting any younger, and you really don't have a whole lot of time left with Andy Dalton and AJ Green. So I guess I think that this team really has to stay healthy to do anything, especially if they want to win a playoff game. If they want to make a deep run in the playoffs, this team definitely has to stay healthy. And guys like Vontaze Burfict need to get on the field and stay on the field. Because if AJ Green has another ankle injury and he misses 5-6 games, this team's probably not making the playoffs. If Tyler Eifert misses 10 games, this team's probably not making the playoffs, because they don't have any other weapons. If you look outside those two guys, there's really not anybody on this team that can make a play outside of the running back position. Now, I'm a pretty big fan of what Joe Mixon brings to the table. He's definitely a very electric running back. I honestly would like to see him start next year, just to get him some more carries, because I think he's the best running back on this team. And maybe that's why they decided to get rid of Jeremy Hill finally. But I mean, if guys like AJ Green get hurt and Tyler Eifert get hurt, say Tyler Eifert gets hurt, all they got to do is double AJ Green and put an extra safety in the box, and then what are you going to do? Are you going to run the ball versus that front with your offensive line the way it is right now? You're probably not going to have much success running against a stacked box. And I think in today's NFL, if you want to not have a stacked box, you need to have 2 good receivers, because we've seen it with a lot of teams, like the Lions in the past. You had Calvin Johnson, but before they didn't have a good receiver outside of him, and teams would just keep him from running the ball by stacking the box every time while doubling Calvin. That's kind of all you have to do when you're playing against the Bengals if Tyler Eifert's out. And another thing from my perspective that I've, started to notice over the past couple of years is that the Bengals have not been drafting very well. Outside of William Jackson and Joe Mixon, there aren't a lot of young guys on this team that are good. Obviously, as I said, Tyler Boyd, you also got John Ross, who doesn't, I'm not going to say at this point that he's not number 2 receiver, because you don't really know yet. He's really got to play more before you can really make that decision whether he's going to be the guy or not. And that's one thing that I want to know is, how do Bengals fans think about this team with the way they have been drafting over the past couple of years? Because definitely from my perspective, it looks like they have been struggling. And Marvin Lewis had a pretty good run there going to the playoffs. I think it was like 5 or 6 years in a row. And during that 5 or 6 years, this was a pretty deep team. They actually had a lot of depth. If you look at their offense, they had guys like Marvin Jones and Brandon LaFleur playing second fiddle to AJ Green. So that's kind of what I mean, is they don't really have any kind of depth now, and it's going to be hard to make the playoffs if you don't have your best players basically playing the whole season without missing a ton of snaps. And honestly, from my perspective, I think that's kind of unrealistic. Eifert has not been able to stay healthy. Why would I expect him to be able to stay healthy now? I'm sure when he comes back, they're going to probably try to get him the ball a lot to try and get him back in the mix of things. And I guess we'll see what happens. I hope he can stay healthy. He's definitely one of my favorite tight ends to watch in this league. He makes a lot of great plays. But I think the offense is going to be heavily reliant on Tyler Eifert and AJ Green staying healthy the whole year. And yeah, if guys like AJ Green and Tyler Eifert get hurt, I would be really surprised to see this team get over like 8 wins or 7 wins, just because of the lack of depth on this team from my perspective. Doesn't look very good. If you are a Bengals fan, comment down below. Let me know what you think about this video, about your team going forward. And if you're not a Bengals fan, comment down below to let me know what you agree with and what you disagree with on this video. But other than that, guys, I hope you enjoyed this one. Thanks for watching and have a great day.